Okay, and welcome to game 4 from Dogs of War with these new, innovative, or slightly lazy top-down views of the battles to look at the big picture tactics. Now, this game, having won 3, I'm creeping up the table. I guess pretty much at the top of the table, so these are sort of top table battles. This one facing a Ghaznavid army, I suspect modelled very much on the one used by the Spanish player Iñaki in a number of recent events. I think the recent Worlds as well. That's probably the list there. We'll have a look at the list in a bit. And the terrain fell pretty blank here. Two small fields, which are the ones that I placed. Top right hand corner, bottom left hand corner by the road. Another field elsewhere on the table, and knowing it was going to be quite a small army, but also knowing the Death Stars, the elephants were going to be the pokey piece in any kind of Ghaznavid army. My sort of plan, I think, with the terrain was to have it fairly open to I suspect allow the Scutatoi and the other troops to drift apart, and then give myself some space to overwhelm the cavalry. And let's have a look and see if that worked out. So here, setup, again, possibly not the cleverest setup. I think maybe this was the Sunday morning game after the Saturday night. So 2 blocks of Scutaratoi to do some shooting with the stiffening spears in the middle. The axemen here, in theory, quite good against elephants. Trying to hopefully, I guess, pull the elephants in past this field here. Cataphracts, not quite sure what to do with them. They're either great or terrible, depending on which part of the army they're facing. And stacking all of the cavalry, the infantry command with a couple of cavalry here, and then the extra 3 cavalry command on this flank to try and push down. And the Ghaznavids are all about the Death Stars. Looks like some of their cavalry are redeploying over here fairly early doors. And you've got a bit of terrain, a couple of fields, things like that there in here. So what is the Ghaznavid army here? You've got a very small command that goes down first, then another small command with 2 Day Lamai, textbook Death Star, then a huge command which I suspect had the strategist with 2 elephants, the impetuous foot, and a few more bits and pieces there as well, and 4 heavy cavalry bow. That's a pretty pokey command. You've got a 4 wide Death Star and 4 decent Gilman bow there. So how did this army deploy? Well, those are the redeploying cavalry out of this enormous Death Star command. So as this command piles forwards, with the elephants and actually slightly oddly separated from the swordsmen, although I guess the swordsmen are good against the Scutator here. Some of the cavalry redeploy to reinforce this wing. These here is just a holding force. I've not really got anything to challenge that there. And all of my cavalry are now facing a big wodge of cavalry, whilst the elephant and strike troops just make a beeline for my infantry here. It's not subtle. Here you've got 5 cavalry and a couple of light horse against 5 cavalry. Mine are better, but I'm not really as good as them here. What are they looking to do? Let's have a look. So what's my reaction really? This is just a bit of shuffling about. This is really just thinking, look, there's a load of medium foot there. Put the cataphract into the line. Drive the horse here just in case these guys come down and try and do something. We're trying to get a face off here. Push these Scutatoi forwards and drive forward with all the cavalry as well. Really trying to put pressure on this wing and see if the Scutatoi can actually help out against the cavalry before they get pulled apart or hit by the bowmen. This is where I want to push all these forces back and do that. This lot is just shuffling around here. So, and the spare guy almost fainting left, trying to pull these and pull these into using some points from this command, which is also commanding these troops, to pull them there. But that's me using a spare pip. Not a lot's going to happen there. So what happens here? Great points, I think, from the Ghaznavids. Great dice roll. So the feint comes down and it's kind of bigger than my guys. The impetuous infantry sit back. The elephants just drive forwards. Suddenly you've got, even so, it's a 5 wide Death Star. This bit with the Day Lamai drives across probably a bit faster than I hoped. It's trying to get into these. These are trying to get out to the right as well. And the cavalry have actually come forward. They're happy to. They appear to be happy to kind of take on a battle. That's just going to hit anything. Swordsman left behind and some spare pips there. And these guys have all of a sudden got into a coherent line. We're starting to exchange some shooting as well. So what happens next? Well, all sorts of stuff really. I charge in with some of the cavalry and try and pile them forwards. Not everybody can quite get out of the way, so I actually catch some of the cavalry here. I've got extra cavalry floating around. There's a lot of reshuffling here, but the bottom line is, if we go back one, these guys suddenly got too close to my Scutatoi and infantry here for me to be confident of pushing them out. And I kind of got a bit all cluttered up here. I've almost got too many troops in this position in this area of the field. So as you can see, this cavalry is the one that goes in here, and the spearmen go in here as well. It's opportunistic, but potentially it's good if they punch a hole through there. Suddenly these are facing off against the cavalry, and this huge overwhelming force here is doing really, really well. I've given up with the cataphract as well. That just needs to get out and see if it can actually, because these guys are going to have to stand and fight, and these guys are going to die. Can I get this into a position in which it might even be able to do something by the end of the game? So what happens? The Ghulams come back. I've obviously killed some of the Daylami, but then the elephant has shuffled across, and the rest of them carry on driving forwards. And I'm really, really struggling, despite overlaps, despite some extra bits and pieces, to sweep these guys away. And the Ghaznavids are just feeding more cavalry in bit by bit, because textbook Ghaznavid tactic, all of these cavalry, even if there's 6, 7 of them, their job is not to die and make sure that the flanks of these elephants are protected. So, and the Ghaznavids are suddenly starting to bring up their infantry to try and charge home here. I really don't want to be hit in a coherent line. Shove forward some spears just to kind of force the elephants. This elephant isn't turned, it's not hitting the flank, it was just spun around so it would actually fit into combat against the spears. I'm expecting a loss there, but if it keeps these guys and gets them a couple of rounds of shooting here, that's probably a decent trade-off. Yeah, partial success, killed some of them, but my spearmen have evaporated on contact, so I've won one, I've lost one. The elephant slides across and is now conforming onto the cavalry with overlap, so that is now a disaster waiting to happen. So what happens here? Still bogged down against these ridiculous light horse over here. The cavalry hang on despite being double overlapped by an elite elephant. That gives me a little bit of time to try and get some some benefit out of these Scutatoi. So one lot whizzes over here and helps try and mug these guys who should have been long gone by now. The other one is starting to put double pins here. It is going to get killed and blown up, but it's really a blocker now in some ways to stop the elephant coming around into the flanks here. And now I've reinforced this, having survived the first round there, gone up with the Varangians as well to hopefully use the turning cutter weapon against the elephant. But it does put me pretty close to these nasty guys here. So yeah, that's where they've gone in. This now has actually found something it can do. It can threaten the Daylami, and here we've almost overwhelmed the filler, but there's still bits and pieces left. The rest of the foot go up and join in, because I smell a bit of an opportunity here. These light foot couldn't quite make it into an overlap, but I've got the elephants bogged down. Nobody's taken hits yet. Got some overlaps, so if I can neutralize the elephants, that's maybe not a bad thing. What happens here? Well, suddenly these spearmen have their luck's run out. They're starting to pick up hits. They pick up hit markers. The impetuous swordsmen are in. The elephant has crushed my cavalry. It's just gone straight through. It now conforms into this injured Scutatoi here, and these Ghaznavids appear to be kind of running away. They've still got 3 cavalry here out of I think the 7 or 6 or 7 that started. These guys have finally won, but look where they are. They're a long way away from anything meaningful. That's almost the only stuff they can chase. And here the Ghaznavids have got everything into contact. The elephant has squeezed in front of the Daylami here and pushed them back out of the way, which has has managed to save them a bit from these cataphracts. Lucky guys. So what happens next? This is obviously a bit of a blurry one. So this elephant goes through. Somebody's just evaporated here. These have taken big hits. I think that looks like a red edge for 3 hits. That's probably a 2. This elephant has crushed the first lot of Scutatoi. It's now into the second one, who picking up hits as well. Whilst these cavalry are pushing forwards and chasing and doing some hits, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4 really potent troops, 5 there, still doing very, very little, whilst all the stuff that the Ghaznavids want to be fighting is starting to be there. The elephants are just overrunning. They're breaking through the Varangians. Yeah, these guys were never going to stand up very well, and we've not really caught many of the Ghulams, never mind caught them, run them over, and created an opportunity here. So where do we end up to now? The elephant spins around to start destroying this line. This line's just in all sorts of trouble now. It's got overlaps, it's got casualties, it's got a big hole in the middle of it. There's still very little happening up here. They're exploiting the breakthrough with that elephant, and even so, I'm closing on the Gilman, I'm shooting at them, but nothing's really happened. It's still that story of 5, 6 cavalry being pinned and achieving very little. So what happens next? These guys evaporate. The cataphracts actually finally kill someone in front of them. We managed to shoot someone there, but suddenly there's very, very few Byzantine troops left here, and even the shooting back from the Gilman is just as good as my shooting. My impact doesn't really help in that one. The Scutato have been wiped out. That other spearman looks like he's in a lot of trouble as well. And these Scutatoi going down like British home stores. They're in a whole world of pain.
And so that's it. The game's over. The Byzantines have lost. Looking back at it, I guess I got sucked into trying to take on the elephants, even though I didn't really want to. I underestimated how quickly they'd advance, and I really didn't manage to push or commit those 2 extra Scutatoi to supporting the cavalry attack. As usual, anything half-hearted in Art de la Guerre doesn't tend to work, so maybe better luck in Game 5 coming up soon.